conference today will provide us with the opportunity to discuss at length various questions related to authoritarian influence and the authoritarian challenge with leading international experts from across Europe and America, and whom I would like to welcome here in Sofia.
Events like this that bring in experts from different nations to exchange ideas and best practices are crucial to establishing and coordinating a common defense. We're going to continue to work with our partners to counter every effort on the part of authoritarian regimes like Russia and China to disinform citizens, weaken faith in democracy, and disrupt processes and institutions that serve the will of the people.
I would highlight that building an ecosystem of different stakeholders in societal resilience is very crucial and vital task for the government, civil society and private businesses. So this ecosystem should be based and built upon, of course, democratic values, and one of the important elements of that is, of course, free and independent media.
I would say that first thing is you have to know who you are. You have to know your identity and be capable of telling your own story. And I mean, that can be a person, an individual, or a society, or a group of people, or a state. Otherwise, if you don't know who you are, so it means that somebody else will tell you, because like malign actors like Russia in this case or China might tell you who you are or what they want of you and use it.
We have to work with the vulnerable groups. In this case, our first priority has to be the address towards the vulnerable community, towards the minorities, towards the ones who are actually not affected by the ideological or radical position, but they simply stay neutral because they can't position themselves. So the first recommendation is to work with those communities to help them to formulate the position, to help them to understand the issue, and to help them to educate towards this matter and this question.
Another important element of that ecosystem is, of course, civil society. And speaking about civil society organizations, I should mention, of course, their professionalism. So basically providing them with practical knowledge and skills to be able actually to fulfill the tasks to combat foreign-led or inspired disinformation.
Second thing, when you know who you are, you have to have a strategic approach. Really be active in communicating, not about malign activities, but more about yourself, what you are doing and why you are doing, explaining. But for a state, it's so important to communicate with the society, with the people, and explain the goals. And this is I call a strategic communication. Of course, again, in communication, you have to be very honest. You have to deliver what you communicate. There should not be just production of words, but really deeds.
The second of all, that we have to have the unity in the organization, that we have to have the unity between the actors and between the countries. If we talk about EU countries, then it's EU countries who have the similar thoughts and similar values and similar positioning towards this question. The same goes also for the NATO, that if we took one actor, then we have the countries who share the same thoughts towards the issue and can work together to use the strength to combat disinformation and misinformation.
And the third is, of course, the government itself, which must be as transparent as possible, as accountable as possible, and as democratic as possible. Because without transparency and democracy, it would be very difficult to combat hostile disinformation, because it usually targets various aspects of our own values.
Of course, you have to monitor your opponent's activities. Any messages any kind of information wording actually suggests the intentions of your opponent. Identify whether they are malign or not, whether that impedes your goals or not. If it is really meant for harming you, then you can really you define it as a propaganda, as a disinformation, as an information operations.
The third recommendation is that we have to formulate the thoughts in a correct way when we perceive the information, that we have to educate and provide the media literacy as well as the fact-checking channels, which can help us from the civil organization's perspective to actually work towards to combating the misinformation, disinformation, to ensure that the society stayed well informed and resilient, especially in the crisis situations.